Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of tea or coffee, and thought to yourself, is this really it? Not in a dramatic way, just quietly wondering if life after 70 is meant to feel this still. Maybe the days all look the same, the phone doesn't ring like it used to, and the things that once brought you joy feel a little farther out of reach. If you've ever felt that, let me just say, you're not alone. And more importantly, it's not too late. Not even close. You see, life doesn't come with an expiration date on hope, joy, or fresh starts. Starting over at 70 isn't about throwing everything out and becoming someone new. It's about uncovering parts of yourself that maybe got buried under years of responsibility, routines, or even heartache. It's about choosing to believe that something meaningful still lies ahead, and not just something to endure, but something to look forward to. And yes, I know how easy it is to think, well, what's the point now? That kind of thinking sneaks in slowly. Maybe you've lost a spouse. Maybe retirement hasn't felt as exciting as it sounded. Or maybe friendships have faded as people moved away or passed on. And even if you're surrounded by people, it can still feel a bit lonely when your days aren't filled with purpose. But what if I told you the most fulfilling chapter of your life might be waiting just ahead, if you're willing to take a few brave steps forward? In this video, we're going to walk through 6 mindset shifts that can help you start fresh after 70. These aren't drastic changes or impossible goals. They're small, thoughtful choices that can lead to something powerful: a daily sense of peace, joy, and connection. So let's start right where we are, because that's always the best place to begin. The first shift is about something we all carry around quietly: regret. It could be a decision you didn't make years ago, a conversation that never happened, or a path you feel you missed. Regret has a sneaky way of building walls around us. It whispers, "You had your chance." But here's the truth. Your chance isn't behind you. It's in front of you. Letting go of regret doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't matter. It means giving yourself permission to be kind to who you were back then. You did the best you could with what you knew, what you had, and what you felt at the time. That deserves grace. And when you soften your grip on regret, you open your hands to receive new experiences. You stop living in a museum of what could have been, and you start building something new in the now. And that brings us to the second shift: curiosity. When we're young, curiosity drives everything. We ask questions, try new things, explore. But somewhere along the way, that spark can dim. We start telling ourselves things like, "I'm too old for that," or "That's just not me anymore." But the truth is, curiosity isn't about age. It's about attitude. It's about waking up and wondering, what would happen if I said yes to that invitation? Or what if I finally tried painting, or joined that walking group, or learned how to use that new app everyone's talking about? The smallest flicker of curiosity can become a fire that lights up your whole life. A neighbor you say hello to could become a friend. A class at the library could turn into a weekly highlight. And sometimes being curious doesn't mean doing something big. It just means being open to the idea that things can still surprise you. Both of these shifts, letting go of regret and choosing curiosity, have something in common. They pull you out of the past and gently anchor you in the present. And here's the beautiful thing about the present. It's the only place where change can actually happen. You don't have to climb a mountain or make headlines to feel renewed. Sometimes the most meaningful changes come quietly. A decision to speak kindly to yourself. A moment where you walk outside just to feel the sun on your face. A phone call you decide to make, even if you're not sure what to say. Now that we've taken those first steps, it's time to keep going. Because something beautiful happens when you start seeing your life not as something winding down, but as something ready to unfold in a whole new way. There's a kind of quiet courage that comes with starting over. Not the kind that makes headlines, but the kind that whispers, "Let's try again." That's what today is really about. Not rewriting your life, but giving yourself permission to turn the page. So now that we've let go of regret and rekindled curiosity, let's talk about something else that plays a huge role in shaping how we feel day to day: expectations. This next shift is about releasing the ones that no longer serve you. You see, for most of our lives, we carry a mental list of how things should look by a certain age, what kind of parent or grandparent we should be, how busy our calendar should be, what kind of legacy we should leave. And when reality doesn't quite match the picture, it can make us feel like we've somehow fallen short. But here's a gentle truth: letting go of outdated expectations isn't giving up, it's clearing space. Space for the life you do have, not the one you imagined 30 years ago. It's about saying, maybe I'm not the grandma who bakes every weekend, but I'm the one who listens when they call. Or, maybe I didn't travel the world, but I've built a home where people feel safe. Expectations can be heavy, especially when they're tied to roles we've outgrown. But when you set them down, you might be surprised at how much lighter life feels. Suddenly, there's room for new rhythms, new routines, new joys that fit the version of you that exists right now. Which brings us to something even deeper. This next shift is perhaps the most personal one. It's learning to believe that you are still becoming, that you're not done, that growing and evolving isn't something you age out of. There's this myth that self-discovery is a young person's game, that after a certain age you're supposed to just know who you are and stay that way. But the truth is, many of us reach our 70s still carrying unanswered questions, unexplored parts of ourselves, and maybe even dreams we tucked away decades ago. What if you pulled one of those dreams back out? What if you tried something not because you had to succeed, but just to enjoy the process? Maybe it's journaling, gardening, mentoring someone younger, or finally taking that watercolor class you thought about 10 years ago. Even something as simple as changing your daily routine can create a ripple. A morning walk you look forward to, a weekly coffee with a neighbor. Little acts that say, I'm still discovering what makes me feel alive. And yes, some days will feel slow or uncertain. That's part of becoming too. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the willingness to stay open. Now let's talk about connection, because it's hard to start over in a vacuum. One of the biggest shifts that brings new life at 70 and beyond is realizing that connection is not just a bonus. It's essential. And it doesn't have to look like it did before. Maybe you've lost people you loved dearly. Maybe friends have drifted, or life has taken you in different directions. But that doesn't mean your social chapter is over. It means it's time to redefine what connection means to you now. Sometimes it starts with a smile at the post office, a small conversation at the market, a shared laugh in the waiting room. You don't need a dozen close friends. You just need a few moments of real, human warmth to remind you that you belong. Connection can also come from contributing, volunteering, mentoring, or sharing your story with someone who needs it. There are people who would be so grateful for what you've lived through, what you've learned, even the things you still wrestle with. You don't need to have it all figured out to make a difference. And let's not forget the importance of connecting with yourself. Spending time doing something that brings you peace, whether that's reading on the porch, listening to your favorite music, or just taking a walk while the sun sets. These aren't luxuries. These are ways you say to yourself, you matter, your joy matters. When you shift into that space, where you no longer chase approval, but lean into presence, you start to feel something change. You stop waiting for life to feel good and start building moments that are good. And maybe that's the real heart of starting over. It's not about beginning from nothing. It's about beginning with everything you've gathered so far: the wisdom, the tenderness, the strength, and choosing to carry it forward with love, not regret. Because you're still here. You're still breathing. And as long as that's true, you still have the power to create beauty in your days. Not for anyone else's idea of success, but for your own sense of peace and meaning. By now, you've probably started to feel it. That gentle inner shift. The space where regret softens, curiosity stirs, expectations loosen, and connection begins to matter in a new way. That's the quiet beauty of starting over. It doesn't arrive with a bang or a big announcement. It sneaks in with small, courageous choices. Now, let's talk about one of the most underestimated parts of beginning again, learning to celebrate the small wins. This next mindset shift is about letting go of the idea that happiness only comes from big achievements. At 70 or 75 or even 85, the real magic often comes in tiny, overlooked places. Woke up early and felt the breeze through the window? That's a win. Took a walk even though your joints protested a little? That counts. Made a new soup from scratch? Smiled at yourself in the mirror? Sat down to rest when you needed it? Those are all moments worth honoring. You've spent a lifetime doing big things, raising families, working hard, caring for others, solving problems. Now, it's time to let the little joys take the spotlight. The birds outside your kitchen window, the feel of warm socks, the way the sunlight hits the floor in the afternoon. When you slow down and notice, those things start to feel like tiny gifts. And here's the thing. Those moments aren't meaningless. They're your life, right now. And each time you acknowledge one of them, you strengthen a part of yourself that knows how to savor, how to live with open eyes, how to choose peace over pressure. This mindset shift, celebrating the small, teaches your heart to breathe again. It gives you a reason to wake up tomorrow and look for something new to be thankful for. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. But all of this leads to one final, powerful shift. And that's giving yourself permission to rewrite your story. Not the past, of course. That's already inked. But the chapter ahead? That's still blank. And you have the pen in your hand. So many people reach 70 and feel like the book is closed. But that's a myth. If you're still here, your story is still unfolding. Maybe you want to be more adventurous. Maybe you want to simplify. Maybe you want to forgive someone. Maybe you want to finally forgive yourself. Rewriting your story doesn't have to mean changing your name and moving across the world. It can be as gentle as deciding not to carry bitterness anymore, or choosing to speak up when you used to stay quiet, or believing you are allowed to feel proud of who you are, just as you are. And maybe, just maybe, it means dreaming again. Not in the loud, ambitious way of youth, but in the quiet, soul-deep way that says, I still have something to look forward to. Maybe it's writing that poem, planting a new tree, teaching your grandchild how to bake your favorite recipe, finding a new hobby, or starting a ritual that feels just for you. You don't need permission from anyone to start over, and you don't need to wait for perfect timing. Starting over is something you can do on a Tuesday afternoon while folding laundry. It can begin in the stillness of a rainy morning. It begins when you decide you deserve joy. Today, not someday. And let's be honest, starting over doesn't mean you won't have hard days. You will. We all do. But now you'll face them with tools in your heart. You'll know how to be kind to yourself when old regrets resurface. You'll remember to reach for connection when loneliness creeps in. You'll know to pause and celebrate a simple sunrise, and to remind yourself that your story is still being written. And if you ever forget, come back to this moment. Let it remind you that starting over is less about doing and more about allowing yourself to grow again, to hope again, to believe that this part of your life can still be filled with meaning, beauty, and even excitement. Because here's the truth, joy has no age limit, peace has no retirement age, And purpose doesn't vanish when you blow out your 70th candle. It's still in you. Quiet, steady, waiting to be invited in. Here's to the days ahead. Here's to the little steps that lead to big healing. Here's to you and the incredible next chapter you're creating, starting now.